Now, for us to take a look at what the international press is saying, Diptyque Laurent is back with us. Diptyque, really that pro-unity, anti-independence protests that took place in Barcelona getting a lot of coverage.
A lot of coverage on the front pages of the Spanish press in particular, Eve. Let's look at the front page of El Mundo, a Spanish daily, which says, Catalonia, the pride of Spain. More than 55% of Catalans are against independence, the paper says, in what's sort of a sarcastic headline, while El Periódico, which is a Catalan paper not so close to the independence movement, well, they proclaim on their front page that we will vote in December's regional elections, those elections called by Mariano Rajoy, of course. Now, these elections are really the latest move in a standoff between him and the Catalan leader. And they're actually represented in a cartoon from the British daily, The Independent, as two bullfighters, you see here, with Puigdemont goading Rajoy by draping the Catalan flag, which is traditionally used to goad the bulls. It's a red flag, and Rajoy trying to spear that flag.
Now, there was a Catalan paper as well, that's calling on people to go out and vote in those regional elections in December.
That paper is Ara, which is, as you said, a Catalan paper that is close to the independent movement. Go and vote, the paper says, because not being present there would condemn the independence movement to being semi-clandestine. The time has come to show the world that we're ready to fight as long as is necessary for our political project. So they really, you can see what position they're taking in the crisis. Now, it's a different story from El País, which is another Spanish daily. Nunca más, the paper says. They actually rejoice in the number of pro-unity demonstrators seen yesterday, saying it's proof that the pro-independence movement is not unanimous in Catalonia. Never again will the political process of independence be usurped in the name of Catalonia. That's what El País is saying.
Okay, moving on to a very different topic now, and there's a lot of talk about sexual harassment in the British Parliament.
There's actually a lot of talk about sexual harassment all day today in different sectors that we'll get to in a second. British Prime Minister Theresa May is vowing to crack down on alleged sexual abuse in Westminster. This amid a storm of sexism after the International Trade Minister admitted to asking his secretary to buy him sex toys. He's actually admitted to the facts but denied that it's harassment, rather describing the incidents as, quote, hijinks following a Christmas lunch. Now, worth noting that another MP is also under fire for allegedly sending sexually explicit texts to a prospective employee. Now, one writer for the British daily, The Telegraph, says that sleaze inside Westminster is actually worse than in the city, at least according to her accounts. She says, change is coming because, I quote, sleazebags can no longer rely on secrecy policed by traditional hierarchies.
Indeed, since that Harvey Weinstein revelations, we're seeing more and more stories like this in the EU Parliament as well as the British. And on that topic, there's another story that's trending this morning. It is actor Kevin Spacey, who has apologised for groping an underage actor some 30 years ago.
That actor is Anthony Rapp, and he says, in fact, it is the Me Too movement that propelled him to come out and speak about his experience that took place 30 years ago. He says the famed Usual Suspects actor Kevin Spacey says he doesn't remember the incidents, but he's apologized for them on Twitter. And Rapp has actually spoken to BuzzFeed about the trauma, saying it was his backlash against sexual harassment that prompted him to speak out. And on Twitter, there's been the overwhelming support for the actor. This user says sarcastically that it's very brave of Spacey to come out as a forgetful predator, because indeed Kevin Spacey also came out in the process. He declared himself a gay man, and there's been much chatter about Spacey's decision to come out as a gay man in light of these events. Many people saying maybe he's conflating the stereotypes that come around homosexuality.
Okay, let's stay in the United States, Diptyque, and scientists, I believe, are preparing to examine the brain of the Las Vegas gunman.
Well, these kind of scientific operations are not uncommon. Well, I mean, they are uncommon, but they are still done on particular cases, in particular, like mass killers. Stephen Paddock's brain is being studied by researchers to see if there's anything in his brain that indicated health problems. It's not necessarily to deduce if something in his brain caused his actions, but it's really just they're trying to find out what could have caused his actions, because up to date, investigators still don't know why he he committed the U.S.'s worst mass shooting on record. In any case, they say even if they did identify something, it won't be connected automatically to the killing, but it's still a pretty unusual experiment to carry out.
Okay. Finally, I see you've picked up on something that I have already seen. I think a picture of it went quite viral this weekend. Donald Trump's motorcade greeted with something less welcoming than he may have wished.
I'm not even sure if he saw this picture, but we've all seen it now, and I'm sure he has too. Trump's motorcade was exiting his Virginia golf club this weekend when a cyclist, who you see here, flipped him the bird not once but twice. The obscene gesture was caught captured in this photo, as you see. It's not sure whether Trump saw it, but some papers have been analyzing the reason for this gesture. Others, like The Guardian, are trying to avoid any analysis. That's what the Washington Post says. What's interesting, though, is it's somewhat of a historical rite of passage because famously a man threw an egg at Bill Clinton in the past, while you might remember an Iraqi reporter threw his shoes at George Bush in 2008, which was considered the ultimate insult. Obama also has been heckled, it must be said, not from members of the public, but members of Congress.
I do remember the shoe, I have to say. Looking at that picture, though, I wonder who took it. It seemed quite close to the
Perhaps
top
somebody
of that
in the motorcade.
Exactly. Jevtika Laurent, thanks so much for that review of the international papers.